Welcome. Good evening. You guys doing okay this evening? Welcome to Creation Boot Camp. Hopefully the first annual Creation Boot Camp. I certainly hope you guys will enjoy the years to come that we get to come and learn here. Let's start things off right. Let's start them off with a word of prayer. God, thank you so much for the opportunity to come and learn about your incredible creation. God, I pray that as we develop in the conference and as we show what the whole purpose is, that it's to glorify you and to spread your word with creation, that you would be glorified in that, and that we would take that with us all across America wherever we go. And we'll thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Well, it certainly is good to have you guys here. How many of you were registered in September and Hurricane Ivan came through and messed up all the plans? Okay, gotcha. Now, I'm going to steal a little joke here. How many of you were not registered in September? You heard about it and you're just now coming? Okay. And how many don't understand the question so far? Yeah, you guys have heard that one before, haven't you? Okay. Well, it certainly is my privilege to welcome you here to Creation Boot Camp. We are thrilled, absolutely thrilled about what God has done and how He's put everything in place for us to come here and learn and really enjoy ourselves. There's a lot of things that you don't know yet, right? And you're going to want to know all kinds of stuff. And the weird thing is I've got it all up here and have a hard time getting it all out there. That's what I got to do.
Pencils!
And what is that? Is everything okay? Okay. So we got so many things going on here, going on at the same time. The kids are over there. They're having a good time. I just went and ran and checked on them. They're having a blast.
Pencils!
Eric! Dude,
it's good. I got the pencils. I'm here, dude. This is cool. Hey, hey, everybody. I'm Dan. I'm the pencil guy. But I'm here. All right, come on. We're going to get some...
Oh! Dan.
Okay, I'm good. It's all right. I'm good.
You're selling pencils?
Yeah, remember? You said I could sell pencils because I wanted to help out and do some cool stuff for boot camp, and you said we need some pencil sales.
Yeah, but
because
Dan,
these people are too stupid. They're not going to bring writing utensils. And so I'm ready.
You don't have to go repeating everything I say, first of all. Second, I told you were supposed to sell them while they were in the hallway. I kept the doors closed so that you could sell everybody at least one pencil. That's the reason I did that.
Well,
you didn't. How many pencils did you sell?
Nobody's in the hallway. Look at that.
What? You didn't sell any? Did you sell any pencils at all?
No.
Did you use the technique that I gave you? That whole technique that I gave you to really sell pencils?
The bold pencils.
Yeah.
That's.
I got that. Don't take no
pencils.
for an answer. You remember that?
No, don't take no for an answer.
Yeah, you're supposed to sell those pencils.
All right. You want to buy a pencil?
Did you tell them how much they were out there?
No.
No? Do you remember how much they were?
No.
Well, Dan, they're 2 for a nickel, okay? 2 for a nickel.
2 for a nickel. That's a good idea. 2
okay.
for a nickel.
Yeah.
Or 3 for a dime.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that too.
Good deal.
Sell more of those if you would, please.
Right.
So, if you would please sell those afterwards. We're trying to get started with our conference here, and things are kind of already underway, so it's kind of too late to sell them.
So you don't want pencils now.
I don't need them now. I want you to remember how to sell them. Afterwards, they need to buy pencils.
Okay.
So, hang on just a second, Dan. Hang on. Whoa, Dan.
You.
First of all, I'm sorry, just give me 1 second. I just want you to make sure you remember how to sell them, okay?
Okay.
Practice on me real quick, okay?
Practice on you?
Yeah, just practice real quick.
Right here?
Try to sell me a pencil.
People
right,
are
ready? And mark, set, go. Sell me a pencil.
Pencils!
Okay, a little too strong, but that's okay. Yeah. Okay.
I've been working out. All right.
How much are they?
2 for a nickel.
Okay.
Or 3 for a dime.
That's great.
Whatever you want. You want to buy a pencil?
No, I don't need a pencil. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Don't. Okay. All right, then I'm going to go back outside.
Well, Dan, hold on. The first thing I told you is don't give up. You got to sell the pencils. You just gave up on me.
But you said you didn't want pencils.
Well, everybody's going to say that to you. People have been saying that to you all your life, man. The girls have been saying that to you forever. You got to really sell these things, okay?
Right.
Okay. You got to tell them how much they are. Also tell them what kind they are. Tell them what kind of pencils they are, okay? What kind of pencils do you have?
They're the best kind.
Okay. Well, hey, that'll work.
I keep them in my special jar on the counter.
Right.
The best pencils right there.
Right.
And these are
okay.
camouflage.
So
I almost
they're
couldn't
2
find
for a
them
nickel, 3 for a
in.
dime. And then they're the best kind of pencils. Use that to sell them. Try to sell one to me again real quick. Go over there. Sell me a pencil. I'm standing in the hallway waiting to get in. It's very exciting.
Okay.
Boot camp's about to start. I haven't brought anything to write with. I need to buy a pencil. Go.
Pencils! Huh?
A little too strong. Hey, yes, they are.
2 for a nickel, 3 for a dime.
Oh, really? Yeah. What kind are they?
Oh, these are the best kind of pencils.
Interesting.
The best kind. They're good. So do you want to buy one?
No, I don't think I need one.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I need one.
See, well, you could buy a pencil now, and then maybe later you could buy some more.
No.
And
thank you, though, but no, I don't need a pencil.
Okay. All right, then I'll just go back out.
Oh, Dan, wait, stop. Don't. You just gave up on me again.
Well,
I
you
told
me you didn't want to.
The first rule, don't give up. We've got to sell these.
Okay.
I mean, we let people in here practically for free. We got to make some money somehow, and that's the ticket right there, okay?
Right.
Hey, also remember, tell them, if they don't buy them, somebody else will.
Right.
Tell them
if
that.
somebody else doesn't buy them, I will.
Want to. Yes. No.
Right.
Tell them if they don't buy them, somebody else will. That's going to make them want to buy them.
Somebody else will.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, you got it? So try to sell me the pencil. Remember, don't give up. Don't give up.
Want to sell you a pencil again?
You're going to sell me a pencil.
Okay.
Don't give up. Then,
if I'm really good, you'll buy one.
Tell me how much they are. I will. If you're good, I'll buy one.
Right.
Tell me how much they are. Then you're going to tell me what kind they are, and you're going to tell me why I should buy them, okay?
That's right, I will.
Okay. All right, let's try it one more time. One more time here, real quick. Just take a second.
Okay.
Okay, ready? I need to buy a pencil. I'm out in the hallway waiting. Gosh, why are they keeping the doors closed? Go.
Pencils!
Whoa.
2 for a nickel, 3 for a dime.
Really?
That's right. They're the best kind.
They're the best kind?
They're the best kind.
Yeah.
Yes. Huh?
All right, why should I buy one?
If you don't, somebody else will.
Well, I appreciate it.
Did I do it good? You're going to buy a pencil.
No, we actually really do have to get the conference going, and we're actually wasting Dennis Swift's time right now, so we really do need to get started, okay?
Well, you said.
All right, so.
No,
we really are. I can't buy them, okay?
So I should really go. I shouldn't stay.
Oh, you're talking about the whole don't take no for an answer thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really done.
I'm
I'll tell you what,
this.
let's let you try to sell one to somebody in here. We need somebody to buy a pencil right there on the corner. Go sell him a pencil. Just try to sell him a pencil.
Dumb-looking guy right there?
Yep, right there. Go sell him a pencil. You can do it, all right?
All right.
Don't forget, don't give up. Don't give up. 2 for a nickel, 3 for a dime. They're the best kind, and if he doesn't, somebody else will.
Right.
All right?
Okay.
Ready? Mark, set, go. Go sell those pencils. Go sell those pencils.
Ooh. Pencils!
Oh! What are you doing? Do you know how much this was?
2 for a nickel, 3 for a dime.
Oh, no, it was a lot more than that. Do you know what kind of book this was?
They're the best kind.
Well, yeah, it was the best kind for boot camp. You know what? I'm gonna beat you up.
Hey, if you don't, somebody else will.
Yeah, well, I'm going to. Come here. What are you doing? Come here. Get over here. Oh, try that on for size. Oh, yeah. Yeah, how's that? Oh, goodness. Oh, man. Oh.
Live from Pensacola, it's Creation Boot Camp.
Oh, come here, you pencil geek. Woo, come here. I'm going to get you. Oh, yeah. Oh.
Dan, we don't know why he works for us yet, but I think it's just God wanting us to keep him around. We truly are excited about what God has and what all is going to go on here, the things we're going to learn. But really the purpose of this conference is, well, to have fun. We're going to have some fun. To learn a lot of material. There's nothing wrong with gathering information. But we got a lot of creation junkies here. How many of you out there are creation junkie? Oh, yeah. The goal of this conference is to make sure that you don't just stay a creation junkie, but you become a creation evangelist. That's the reason for this conference. We want to make sure that you are going out and telling others, because to collect it all up here doesn't do a whole lot of good for the world out there. And the whole purpose of this is to make sure and get God's word out using the creation message. It's absolutely incredible how the creation message can be used to glorify God. It's absolutely awesome. So our first speaker this evening is Dr. Dennis Swift. How many of you have ever heard Dr. Dennis Swift speak before? 3 of you. How many of you have not heard him speak? See, what's next? How many don't understand the question so far? Guys, you're going to certainly be, you're certainly privileged to have Dr. Dennis Swift here. He is an expert on the Ica stones. You guys, if you go to Dinosaur Adventureland tomorrow during your tour, we'll get to see some of the Ica stones. I don't want to take up any more of our time, so with a warm welcome, let's introduce Dr. Swift. Come on up here, Doctor. Thank you for being here.
Good. How many of you are here? How many of you are not here? Oh, several of you are not here. Some of you are here, but you're not all there. Well, we've got a good group here tonight. People just seem to enjoy a crowd. Have you noticed that? The bigger the crowd, the more people show up for it. You have a small crowd, nobody shows up. They say cleanliness is next to godliness. Why do they say cleanliness is next to godliness? I looked it up in the dictionary. Cleanliness is next to claustrophobia. Godliness is next to goggles. Well, that's what they taught me in seminary, to look at things in such a way that other people had not put them together in the same way. My friends say I have a massive gift for the elaboration of the obvious. For instance, why do cowboys wear two spurs? If one side of the horse goes, the other side does too. What makes Teflon stick to the bottom of the pan? And when yogurt goes bad, how can you tell? Why do they call it a fast when it goes so slow? And do you have to brush your teeth during a fast? I was thinking the other day, why do they call them buildings when they're done building them? Why not builts or crumblings? You know, I live in that crumbling over there. You know, I never could understand how they could throw a little match out of a car window into a rainforest and start a raging forest fire, and I can't get anything to happen in my hibachi with hand grenades and kerosene. Well, I was thinking the other day, if your knees bent the other way, what would a chair look like? That's why I'm here, to solve a couple of problems. Why do dinosaurs live with man in the Nazca lines of southern Peru? From outer space, there are three things that you can see, the astronauts say. One is the Great Wall of China. Secondly is the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. And the third is the Nazca lines in southern Peru. Are we coming through up there? Can you see that yet? There we go. This is the Nazca lines right up here. Oh, my pointer's not reaching. The Nazca lines is one of Earth's last great mysteries. Indeed, they've been called archaeology's most baffling enigma. This peculiar art gallery was done by the ancient Nazcans from 300 BC to 800 AD. It is the use of the Earth's crust as a colossal art canvas, as a gigantic sketch pad. This dramatic doodling pad is of dramatic dimensions. In fact, it's 850 square miles, 37 miles long, and 20 miles wide in the southern Peruvian desert. You can see the line stretching across there. In fact, the lines are laser straight. They follow perfectly the curvature of the earth. The longest line is 15 miles. It is laid out in arrow accuracy. There are more than 1,300 triangles, trapezoids, rectangles, zigzags, spirals in a geometric melange, an extraordinary spectacle of stupendous proportions. The lines, when they come to a mountain, they stop, and then they proceed exactly on the other side in a linear path. They were done by the Nazcans, as I said, between 300 BC and 800 AD. As they are using the Earth's skin as this humongous Etch-a-Sketch pad, they did on the desert an exotic parade of animals. They are of colossal proportions. We have a whale that is 100 meters, the length of a football field. We have the hummingbird here that's of 640 meters on a plateau, more than 2 football fields length. A pelican of 900 meters, 3 football fields in length. And you have to fly over them from the air to look down at about 1,000 feet to see them. Here's the proportions of the hummingbird, which was the ancient Incas' messenger to the gods, and a 747 airplane in comparison. This is indeed a scientific mystery. Who were the Nazcans? The Nazcans were pre-Columbian Indians and inhabited the Atacama Desert. And they were with the Ica before the Incas, INCA, the Tiahuanacos, the Wari, the Mochi, many other Indian tribes. Just like in the Bible, you have the Hittites and the Amorites and the Pezerites and the Termites and all the different groups. They wore a kaleidoscopic costume of colors, brightly arrayed. They were very Asiatic looking, like modern people from Mongolia would look like. One of the vases we found down there had all 4 races of people, the different people's faces on there, black and red and yellow and white. And at Tiahuanaco, the great civilization up in the Andes outside of La Paz, Bolivia, they have in the courtyard of Tiahuanaco stone faces of the Celtic-like people, of Amara Indians, of Negroid people, and Europeans. Long before Columbus ever arrived in America, they were aware of the different nationalities. Now, I'm not going to here to solve all the mysteries about the Nazca lines, but Eric von Daniken postulated that they were alien airfields, that ancient astronauts came down, constructed these airfields, and that God was an ancient astronaut and the Saucerine people came down and constructed these airfields. Well, my favorite theological word for that is baloney. That's not how it happened. The Nazcans were highly advanced people, and technologically they laid these lines out. But the question is, did they glide over the lines? There was reports when the conquistadors came, the monks with Pizarro mentioned that in the 1540s that they saw the Incas gliding over the jungles in glider-like things, apparatus. Then Antonio Calancha, who was a friar in 1638 in his book, The Civilization of Peru, he writes that they also talked about the Incas having these apparatus where they could fly like birds, and from out of the Andes, what a trip would take several days, they could do in a few minutes. Is it possible that they could glide? Or is that just a mythological construct? I searched through thousands of vases in the Peruvian museums and come across this one. Is a Mochi vase. The Mochi people from the northern part of Peru from about 300 AD to about 800 AD. This vase is 600 AD. Do you look at that? That's incredible. Can you see it clearly? Look at those wings outside. He got his hand on a strap, like on right here. He's in a posture of flying like this. And in the National Aeronautical Museum of Peru, they have a vicus vase of a guy who's flying as the first example of early flight. The monks, the priests in the 1570s down in Mexico, they also recorded that the Aztecs constructed flying type apparatus out of stork feathers and other things where they could glide for a ways. And the Polish archaeologist, Professor Tannenbaum, 1934, excavating out of Tiahuanaco ruins in Mexico, he found a rock. Engraved on that stone was an Aztec with these wings like. Is it possible? It may be. I actually took this vase out of the museum cabinet and held it there, this vase from about 600 AD, and was allowed to take photographs of it. Make sure you hit the target if you're flying. Now, when all of these animals, geoglyphs that are carved on the desert, I was flying over there in a small airplane, and they would open up the windows at 65 miles an hour. You could almost get sucked out. At that speed, you could be going to a downdraft and crash on the desert. But if you'll look here, you will see that there's a man and 2 animals. The animals are dinosaur-like. One of them looks like a Pachycephalosaurus, and on that is about 60 meters long. See that? The next one, as we're flying over, like Calvin and Hobbes. We look down, and here is a dinosaur neck, and covering over the ridge of a mountain, maybe 100 meters. There's two others that we've discovered down there. It's in fact of such archaeological significance that a year ago in the summer, the National Congress of Peru had a meeting in the Nazca to discuss these discoveries, not the main lines, the Nazca lines, just above on Rio Palpa, Nazca. A National Geographic film crew that I was with down there, we were standing overlooking some of the Nazca lines, and the head archaeologist was discussing this, and he called it the Dennis theory, that dinosaurs and man had to live together. And he said, I believe it has to be true because the Nazcans drew the animals they were familiar with. Now, this is all going to tie together tonight. Is anybody out there still breathing? Oh, that's good. You know, because every Sunday I have 30 minutes to wake the dead at the church. So I want you to stick with me a little bit because this will all tie together with the Ica stones in a minute. Now, this is Paracas. It looks like 200,000 square miles of kitty litter. The Atacama Desert, this is only about 100 miles from the Nazca lines. All of the Atacama Desert is so devoid of plant life. There's absolutely almost no measurable moisture. It's the driest place on the planet. And consequently, down by Paracas, there is the candelabra. Now, Eric von Daniken said that this was a beacon guiding the ETs, extraterrestrials, to Nazca lines. If it is a beacon, they got several problems. Why would the ancient astronauts need a primitive thing on the side of a sand dune 68 stories high to show them the way? They'd have navigational devices. Number two, if you follow the direction from there, it deviates by so many degrees that you would miss the Nazcan lines by 150 miles and they'd be lost in space. And you could only use it during the day because at night there's no lights. This is really a breathtaking magnitude when you look into Paracas Bay and look up at that 68-story candelabra. Some people try to say it's a trident. Well, really, I think I have solved the mystery of this. It is really a plant from the jungle. Look at it closely. You'll see the pods and so forth on the sides. And they drew a plant from the Amazon, maybe in hopes that it would grow there someday, that it would rain. Now, on the Paracas Peninsula, there was a discovery made in the 1990s that I was alerted to, and I went down there. And you will see here in this rock, if you look closely, there's a human skull, white. Next to it is a skull in the stone. Can you see that? That stone in the skull, and there's clams inside of this stone, and there's a turtle there that's fossilized that's supposed to be extinct about 150 million years ago. So I brought a team down there, Don Patton and Dave McQueen, and we researched it, but now it has been vandalized. It's been taken away. This report was given at the Geological Society of America in 1997 in Salt Lake City at the Salt Palace, and the secular geologists just snickered when we started to present this, and then when the evidence was presented, they lapsed into a profound and prolonged silence without an answer. And this is reported in the abstract of the Geological Society of America in 1997. Now, on the Nazca Desert, there is this figure of a spider. The spider is 150 feet long, 46 meters. It is one continuous line of 1 1/2 miles. What is incredible about the spider is, if you'll notice, the third leg up there is extended. Also, it has no eyes. What's so important about that? It is the rarest of all spiders, the Rickenella species, that's less than 1/10, about 1/8 to 1/10 of an inch. It's barely detectable by the human eye, but during reproduction, it extends the third leg. And at the end, the tip of it is a spermophore. And they're about 1,000 miles away in the Amazon in caves, and they are sightless. We did not know this until 1959. With the use of a high-powered microscope, they were able to see for the first time the extension of the third leg. The Nazcans, in order to draw this, must have had some way of seeing this phenomenon. I'm saying to you, that's nothing short of startling. One professor at Boston University said it is the most incredible thing he's ever witnessed, that the ancient Nazcans could spy on the sex life of the arachnid spider. Did they fly over the desert in balloons? Jim Woodman and Julian Knott went down to Nazca, and they found fabric. And in that fabric, it is the most tightly woven fabric in the world, the Nazcans and the Paracas people, from 1,400 to 2,000 plus years ago. This shirt, for instance, is probably 70 to 90 threads per square inch. Modern parachutes, somewhere between 185 and 200 threads per square inch. Their fabrics were regularly 220 plus, with some of them 396 and above, and the most I've ever heard is over 600 threads per square inch. They also found pieces of pottery with balloon-like looking apparatus on it. So they went down there and duplicated it, and over burn pits, they sent up a balloon, Condor 1, 1971. Saying that it's possible that the ancient people had some knowledge of flight. Maybe they did construct hot air balloons. There was a Spanish priest in the 1600s that was in the jungles of the Amazon of Brazil, and he witnessed that the natives, they made hot air balloons, little hot air balloons. And he went back to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and he made a hot air balloon, and he flew it. And if you go to Rio de Janeiro, there is a monument to that priest as a statue, and he did it 300 years before the first hot air balloon by the French. Is anybody still breathing out there? This is one of the Ica stones, but we also know these people had a complex calendar like the Mayans. The Mayans had the most intricate calendar in the world. While we have to have a leap year every 4 years, their calendar was almost exactly right. I'm flying over the Nazca edge of the desert. Like I said, there's nothing growing out there. But if you were to put your ear down on the ground in certain parts of the Nazcan desert in Atacama, on the Nazca lines, you would hear waterfalls underneath the desert. The Andes, from the Andes, the water flows down and goes underneath. And there are natural aquifers, okay? It may be that many of the lines are pointing to sources of water in the desert. And some of them were sacred pilgrimage paths that they walked upon and made sacrifices of pots. They would break them to the rain gods and so forth. But the Nazcans built aqueducts, canals, to connect to the natural aquifers from about 500 AD, approximately these are. And so I'm flying in a small airplane, and we're coming in to the edge of the desert. You can see it's green around there because of these canals. And they would be able to go down inside. No matter what level of the water, they could go down and get water. The Chamu people and the Nazcans had the most advanced hydraulic engineering. It was the American U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It wasn't until the 1960s that they could make canals as intricate as they could. The Chamu and the Nazcans figured out the rate of water flow, how to keep it going at an exact speed, how it wouldn't become stagnant, and many of the Chamu canals are still in operation today. They were a highly advanced technological people. Now, in the southern Nazcan Peru, there are literally hundreds of thousands of tombs that have been looted by the Huaqueros. And the Huaqueros, they are tomb looters. And as they loot the tombs, they leave the mummies, the bodies, out on the desert, so you can see these mummies in different places near cemeteries. And we're looking down into a Nazcan tomb, and you can see a mummy down there. And these fabrics are remarkably preserved. In fact, you'd think they were 10 years old instead of 2,000 years old or 1,500 years old. Because once they sealed the tombs and put them down in there with a wood roof and 3 feet of sand with no moisture inside, it stays that way, and it's almost virtually untouched by bacteria and other things. So they're the most prized fabrics in the world. Go on the internet and look it up, and you'll see that people pay tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars for Paracas and Nazcan fabrics. So we're looking down into some of the tombs, and if you'll look closely, you'll see one of the stones to the right there that's inside the tomb. This is a Tiwanaku mummy, a child, about 2,000 years old. See the fabric? In fact, when you open up some of the tombs, You see crouching corpses staring back at you. Shriveled ears, but their eyes are still there. You put a little water on their arms and legs. I was with National Geographic doing a filming down there at Chincha Icha, some excavations. They wanted me to take them there. And I'm telling you, it's just incredible when you open up one of those tombs and look down and see those people. There was this 85-year-old lady. She went out on a date with a 90-year-old man. And when she got home, her daughter said, "How did it go?" He said, "Well, I slapped him 3 times. She said, "Why? Did he get fresh?" She said, "No, I thought he was dead." Well, when you look in these tombs, friends, you say, "Oh, these people look like they're alive." It's just so fascinating. Now, this is a piece of fabric. It's Noskin. It was found 3 or 4 years ago, and it has dinosaurs on it. It's a mantelpiece. Boy, this is the secret weapons. So you got ammunition all over here, hand grenades, torpedoes. This is to blow up evolutionists right here. The secret weapon table. This has 6 dinosaurs on it. There are 3 on each yellow, green, and white. Can you see them? This was wrapped around a mummy. It is authentic. One museum has offered $100,000 as a starting price for it. It's not for sale. I don't even own it. It belongs to the Queen of Beaverton. The Queen of Beaverton. No, it does belong to the Queen of Beaverton. Yeah. Hello out there. Is anybody, you haven't heard of the Queen of Beaverton? Okay, good. You see this fabric? Here's another one we got in 98. It also has a dinosaur-like image. Now, this is going to tie together. You have the Nazca lines all together, Paracas Peninsula, the Nazcan tombs, and the Ica stones. This is Dr. Javier Cabrera and the Ica stone collection in Ica. There are over 11,000 plus stones. I met him several years ago, and while I was there, I was trying to acquire a stone. He would not sell one at the time. And he showed me pictures. He sent a giant stone to the Queen of Spain. He sent another stone to the Queen of Sweden. He sent a stone to Shirley MacLaine. And I said, "Well, you haven't given one to the Queen of Beaverton." And he said, "Well, who's the Queen of Beaverton?" I said, "My wife." And he said, "By all means, she shall have a stone." That's how I acquired the first stone. Well, these 11,000 stones plus stones, many people try to dismiss them and say, well, they all came from Cabrera. First of all, let me say, in 1535, a Father Simeon traveling with Pizarro during the Ica province, he's the first one to note the strange engraved stones of Ica in 1535. In 1562, stones were shipped back to Spain. In 1571, Juan de Paracachara, say that fast because I can't pronounce Spanish, he wrote in 1571 about the stones. In 1941, the famous archaeologist Jose Tello, unrivaled as the best of all Peruvian archaeologists, world renowned, he found an engraved stone beaker with animals on it in 1941. In 1904, Dom Pedro Cabrera found a stone. Now, among this collection of stones, this is a museum that scares scientists because in the collection there are stones of dinosaurs and man together, dinosaurs in combat with man, dinosaurs standing alone. There is also incredible brain surgeries, heart surgeries, cesarean sections. There's telescopes and other things. All kinds of images on the stones that people say that's preposterous, it's ludicrous, that cannot be true because ancient men did not have those. Some of the stones have the condor and the monkey and the spider, just like the Nazcan lines. Now here we have one of the stones with a warrior-type Ica person. Now the reason why they're called Ica stones is because there were ancient Indians called Ica from about 200 BC to 1200 AD approximately. Also, the Wari Indians were in that region, Tiwanaku, Nazca, all in those general perimeters, and also now the modern town of Ica itself. In fact, Dr. Javier Cabrera's ancestors, Dom, Pedro, Geronimo, Darquia, Cabrera, settled Ica in 1570, okay? So there's a long lineage of this. Dr. Cabrera himself was a medical doctor. He was a professor at Gonzaga University in Ica, Peru. Is anybody still interested in this discussion tonight? Whoa, this is an exciting crowd. I say wow. I'm so excited I'll say it backwards. Wow. All right. Is it possible? Because Peruvian archaeologists and others say that ancient man did not have telescopes. Well, wait a second. Marilyn Childs Denny, who was the first person in the United States to get a degree in archaeoastronomy, she worked at the Denver Planetarium. She was recovering from an illness, and she was rummaging around in the back of the Denver Natural History Museum, and she found 18-inch cylindrical tubes and evidence that they had mirrors, that they used them for reflecting telescopes, that the Mesoamerican Indians in Central America, South America, used telescopes to look at the heavens. The Mayans, they have over 400 references in the codices to the various planets. The Mayans not only constructed soaring pyramids, magnificent cities, but astronomical towers like at Chichen Itza. In fact, they speak of smoking mirrors that were black polished mirrors. The Mayans record in their codices of Uranus and Neptune. We could not see Neptune until 1846 with a telescope. How did they do that without a telescope? They were aware of the rings of Saturn. You have to have a high-powered telescope to see the rings of Saturn. Do you know what the best scientific theory of what the rings of Saturn are? It's the accumulation of all the airline's lost luggage. I was in the airport the other day. I said, can you send this piece of luggage to Denver and this piece of luggage to Honolulu? They said, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? You did it last week. I want to go every place my luggage has been. Have you noticed at the airport, you get to those metal detectors and things, they have you take out your wallet, they have you take out your keys, they have you take out your change, they have you take off your belt. Makes me want to go back to my old job as a stripper. Taking paint off cars. Oh! Okay. So did they have astronauts? The Mayans were competent astronomers. Galileo, if there's any Italians here tonight, did not invent the telescope. In fact, Chinese Emperor Chang in 2283 BC, he arranged lenses, optical lenses, to gaze at the planets. The Carthaginians in the 4th century BC, in the excavations in 1869, you see, there is a bias, folks. You know what? We are so conceited. We believe that just a few thousand years ago, our ancestors were cowering in caves, beetle-browed, bow-legged, barrel-chested, hairy-backed brutes, club-carrying, peanut-brained, drooling, knuckle-dragging savages. And that we, bionic-brained moderns, are the latest and greatest. And they were mental morons in comparison. And because of that bias, we don't always look at the evidence. So we see here that there's ample evidence, even though about 98% of the ancient literature has been lost, in the 2% we find various references to the use of telescopes. And here is the Carthaginians used it for military purposes in about the 4th BC. They spied on the enemy using, they called it a dystrophy, a kind of telescopic device. Here we have at the Athens Museum a piece of pottery with a Greek person on it looking through what else? A telescope. Strabo in 28 AD, in his journeys into the world, he talks about looking through these devices that could expand and he could see the coastline of Spain. Roger Bacon in the 13th century notes that he invented a telescope. He refers to earlier references of Caesar when the Romans were going to invade Kent, England, that they looked across the English Channel over 20 miles and could see what was going on over there. And secular archaeologists laughed at that, they scoffed at that, they lampooned it. And now we have found lots of Roman lenses at the Temple of Artemis, for instance, in Turkey and in other locations. The Vikings had telescopic devices. Now, at Gottkub Island, some Swedish archaeologists have found over 300 lenses. And these lenses are elliptical, with almost perfect precision. There is a process, I call it toroidal, I think it's called a process, that we did not develop until about 1900 to 1920, where you use a lathe and can you make elliptical lenses. This is those kind of elliptical lenses. In March of 2004, the U.S. Army got a tip that Saddam Hussein was hiding proton torpedoes, weapons of mass destruction near Babylon, the ancient city. They began to excavate. And as they were excavating, they found weapons. Did you know that? Yes. Swords, spears from 750 BC. As they dug deeper, they found an astronomical tower from 600 BC along the other side. And there's a parabolic mirror that was polished. It has a truss tool, an azimuth mount. It's not a reflecting, but it's a refractor telescope, almost 2,000 years before Newton developed such a telescope. They have all these cuneiform. It's in my book that's coming out soon. Soon. And all the cuneiform texts that they're now deciphering, they found that every 90 years they were studying the planets and trying to figure out the observed circulation, motion, and so forth. What was Daniel? He was in Babylon, right? What were the Magi? Many of them were astronomers. Intelligent group here tonight. Now, the magnifying glass. This is an Inca stone. And people say, oh, they didn't have. Well, what about the spider? How did they see the spider? I found a text in the 1540s when the Spanish conquistadors came and conquering the Incas. You know what they discovered? They mentioned this in some of the old texts. They mentioned that the Inca people had these concave cups on their bracelets, and they would focus them, and the sun would start fires. Now, if they understood that process, is it feasible that they did not also understand how to use magnifying glasses? You're seeing this the first time here tonight. Many of the scoffers and the critics will say, absolutely not. There is no evidence of anybody else finding any of these stones in tombs. Well, Piazza Acerto, who was the director of the Regional Museum of Ica, he is a Peruvian archaeologist. He was the director from 1963 to 1968 in independent excavations and an official with Alberto Calvo and Ocahaje in Nazcan and Tiwanaku and Ica tombs. He found stones. He found a stone of a five-toed llama. I've had it translated from the Spanish. And also a species of this fish that was supposed to be extinct over 100 million years ago. Now we're looking into a Nazcan tomb. You will see that some of them were built with adobe material like this, a layer of rocks, a Baroque-type roof, and then you'll see there down below a stone, an engraved stone. It has a dinosaur and a man on it. This stone was found just a few years ago. Can you see that stone? You will see a concentration of saltpeter. Heavy concentration. Now, normally in the tombs, when you have these artifacts, many of them have no patina on it, no weatherization, because you don't have moisture. In fact, in the American Southwest, F.G. Cawley, in his work, there's many things that we find in American Southwest with the Indians that has no weatherization, no patina on it, even though it's over 1,000 years old, or very little patina. So many of the stones do not have patina that much or weatherization. But this stone, because it was by an ancient irrigation canal, some moisture was getting into the tomb. Modern farmers still do the same ancient irrigation fields. And Giuseppe Orfica, who is a famous Italian archaeologist, Nazca authority, he's written books on the Nazcans. He was involved in this, the head archaeologist. I was involved in this process with this stone. Now, this stone has saltpeter, heavy concentrations. That takes hundreds of years, at least. It has lichen growing on it. That's supposed to even take like 1,000 years or more. Also, on top of that, the stone has the mummies, when they're put in the tombs, sometimes about 3.5 cups of blood and body fluid will seep out. If it gets on anything, it's called a burn. Now, many things, that doesn't happen that way. When the fabrics come out, there's not a burn because there's not a leakage of body fluid. But for instance, just for a night here is Chichen Itza. You'll see here, unmistakably, some blood stains. This is a burial shroud from over 1,000 years ago. Can you see it? Now, on this stone, I'm shutting down every critic of the stones right here. This is a bombshell. This is a blast. This is a demolition zone right here because they can't get around this evidence. I offer $500,000, including tax, license plates, federal surplus, and handling with coupons for anybody can take a couple of stones here, any one of them, by any pre-columbian authority, by any analysis, and get to prove it. But if you'll see right here, this stone was next to the mummy, and some of the fluid leaked out right here. This is a blood stain. No doubt. From the mummy. It's impossible to fake. Are you glad you came tonight? I'm glad you came too, if there's nobody here. It's like this guy was always falling asleep in church, and the pastor one Sunday, while he was sleeping, he said, "Everybody wants to go to heaven. Stand up." Everybody stood up. The guy was still sleeping. Real quiet, he said, "No, sit back down." And then he shouted, "Now everybody who wants to go to hell, stand to your feet." The guy stood up, and he looked up and said, "I don't know what we're voting for, Pastor, but it looks like you and me are the only ones for it." In China, you know, when people got tired, they would stand up. When everybody was standing up, they'd go home. You're not tired yet, are you? All right. This is the microscopic analysis of that stone. You can see the weatherization, the patina. Here's one of the images. There's 2 dinosaurs on it. Dermal spines. The graphic there that you see, the little indentations are just the way, the pattern, what a dinosaur might look like. Now, this is upside down, but in the Cabrera Museum, there are petrified poles, like totem poles. And on this one, there's a couple of them that have dinosaurs on it. They're rock hard. They're over 1,000 years old. Brain surgery. Some of the stones depict an operation with the people laying down, a surgeon taking different tools and operating on the brain. Fay Marley in Science News, November 1966, page 266, says that long before Columbus arrived in the Americas, medicine men in Mexico and Peru were forging ahead with brain surgeries, heart surgeries, cesarean sections, amputations, bone transplants, and a host of other things, and treating diseases that are still confounding modern science. R.L. Moody. You know, there are even medical doctors that have looked at these stones and they say, that can't be possible. Why, Dr. Whistlebritches? Because I went to Stanford Medical School. Did you ever study ancient medicine? No, but I know they could not have done that. Well, all right. R.L. Moody, the great paleopathologist, he wrote that it's correct to say that no ancient race of people anywhere in the world developed such a knowledge of surgeries, a vast surgical knowledge, that they attempted amazing surgeries, amputations, excisions, trephining, bandaging, bone transplants, cauterizations, etc. That's pretty impressive, don't you think so? Well, they use bandages as good as gauze, as good as ours. This is from a physician's tomb You know, physicians are always burying their mistakes, so this time we found a physician. This gauze and bandages is from 300 to 500 BC. It's real, it's authentic, and it's soft, it's beautiful. I mean, it's decayed a little bit, the colorization. Isn't that amazing? And they use gauze and bandages. I probably have the finest collection of pre-Columbian medical instruments in the world. Here we have tummies, bronze, needles, and so forth, obsidian knives, different tools that they perform the surgeries with. This one has a wafer-thin obsidian blade. National Geographic, back in September of 1981, did an article on these kind of obsidian knives. And they said that the obsidian knives used by the ancient surgeons, when you look under a microscope at 10,000 magnification, they are sharp, keen, no pits. But modern surgical steel scalpels have little pits and dents in them. In fact, Donald Crabtree, an anthropologist, when he had open heart surgery, asked for these kind of instruments to be used because, and they were, obsidian knives, because it left less bruising of the tissue. And it healed faster. I'm not saying they surpassed us in every way, but in some ways they were quite astute and knowledgeable. So this does not discount the authenticity of the Nazca stones, the Ica stone. Trephining, where they open it up for surgeries. In the mummies at Cusco, we find evidence of surgical sutures right here. And we know that somewhere between 60 to 82% of the patients lived based on the healing right around the outside. European doctors, when they first saw this, came over in the 1860s, and many modern people said that can't be because they did not have such a success rate. At Paracas, 46% of the skulls we find have trephining. There were many battle wounds. There's also some evidence that when you do this and leave at least one hole, that it increases your knowledge, atmospheric pressure. I'm not an expert on this, okay? You know what this is? It's an airhead refueling, okay. I don't know. But they did have some real amazing knowledge. Here's another guy. Maybe it could be. It could be they were x-rays of evolutionists after a debate with Hovind. Okay. Oh, here's heart surgeries. Yes, they have. Years ago, there was in 1972, there's an article in the Peruvian Times. They said, wow, there's these cardiac surgeries and everything, and they're so intricate and all this. Well, we're not doing those kind of surgeries. This was 1972. We're doing those kind of surgeries today. The Marbajan expedition to Turkmenistan in 1960s, they found in Central Asia and Turkmenistan Neanderthal skeletons. And the official report, the USSR Academy of Science, 8 of the skeletons gave undeniable evidence of open heart surgery. They went through the cardiac window, they used forceps, pushed it open, and that they healed because there's bony, fibrous tissue deposits on the outside. The conclusion of the Russian report was this: they must have lived 5 to 8 years afterwards at least, because based on the amount of the bony deposits around the heart, that they had some knowledge of heart surgery. In the prestigious British journal, Nature, Journal of Science, they have an article about the Chimu, who were contemporaneous with the Nazcans. They found different surgical tools, I can't, one of the words I can't pronounce. Anyway, a couple of various instruments that are virtually identical to what we use for abortions. And in that journal, they said they must have performed abortions. This is Nature, the journal Nature, Science Journal, volume 1003. Okay. Here's some of the skulls. They patterned it with, some of them are like Egyptian-type skulls. They had the rounds of skulls. Deformation of the skull. And all reasons I don't know. Here's another laying down. Abner Weisner was a medical doctor, and he went down to Central America and Mexico. And over many years, the different people, Aztecs, Olmecs, they would make clay statues, and they had people on these tables. Looked like they'd been strapped down, and whatever diseases they'd be treating with, they put it in the clay, modeling the clay. Isn't that astonishing? And they buried it in the graves. And they used to be on display at the National Medical College in Washington, D.C. And out of that, they saw that they were treating all kinds of diseases, all kinds of medical remedies, and having a degree of success. Now, if they were doing that in Central America, putting it in clay, burying it in the tombs to let us know what they died of or what they were treating, isn't it not possible they could do it in stone and bury a library down in Peru? They also had antigens so you won't have rejection when you have surgery. Dinosaurs and man. We see in the collection about 300 or 400 dinosaur stones. They have dermal spines along the back. That wasn't discovered by Stephen Zirkus until 1992 in the geology. It was written that, many of the textbooks today are wrong that they don't have smooth backs. They had like an iguana, a frill along the back, either the top, bottom, different, very much similar to an alligator. You see little ridges along the back, so it would be a little bit higher. Are you still with me? Well, I'm having fun. Here's another dinosaur and man stone, another one of a triceratops. They also correctly depict the dinosaurs standing up like this, reaching up to the trees on their hind legs. We didn't know that until 1986. Robert Bacher, in his book, Dinosaur Heresies, is now an established fact that they could, before 1986. Let's say, if these were falsifications, if these were frauds, why would they have depicted them that way? Why wouldn't they depict them like the books that they would look at? Also the heads. You know that there was no such thing as a brontosaurus. That in 1978, that Marsh put the wrong head on the wrong body. And then in 1978, under a lot of pressure, they switched it and put the right head on the wrong body. It's called an apatosaurus. Now, on many of the stones down in Peru, in the Ica collection with Cabrera, the stones are correctly depicted with a slender head, not a fat head. If they were looking at books from the 1950s and 1960s, they would have depicted wrong. Dermal spines again. On the back. There was an article in the Creation magazine called Stony Suspicions, that the stones could not be correct because we know now that the tails are on the ground, are sticking out when they walk. They're not. And in the Ica stones, they are curved down to the bottom. Remember Johnny Carson when he used to play Swami and had the hat on? And Ed McMahon, his sidekick, would say, well, you've said all there is to say about culture and ancient man and everything. That's all there is to say. And Johnny would say, wrong, Brontosaurus breath. Well, wrong, Brontosaurus breath, because these do have the tail sticking out. This is one of the stones. I'm down there a year ago, and here's the stones with locomotion. They have the dinosaur tail sticking out. I took a USB digital microscope. It looks like a little hairdryer. Forensic laboratories, criminal laboratories use them in the United States. And when they use them, they can magnify from 10x to 200x power. And we did a scientific investigation with the independent deal. They selected different stones. We would hook up the microscope and flash them on the screen and do an analysis. It showed that there were lichen growth. It showed that there was patina in the grooves. Before that, I had a stone made by Basilio. Basilio is supposed to be the forger who made all these stones. He's a poor peasant living in Okahahe in a ramshackle shack with no modern convenience, making about $8 to $20 a month. And Basilio, I asked him to make me a stone. It takes about 6 to 8 hours to make a stone. He used a hacksaw blade. Now, he's illiterate. Now, he's deceased, but he was illiterate, had no education. He only knew about one species of dinosaurs, like a Diplodocus. He didn't know about other species of dinosaurs. I had him make me a stone, a Basilio original, a bogus boulder. He used a hacksaw blade, carving it. Took him 6 or 8 hours. He would draw with a lead pencil or a blue ink pen type thing and draw it and then make it. He'd sell it for tourists to make a few bucks. And many people say Basilio is the guy who made all these. Well, it takes him 6 to 8 hours to make one stone, all right? And there's over 11,000 plus stones. If he made the stones at an average of 6 to 8 hours, and believe me, I knew him for a number of years, he'd only make 1 or 2 a month, and many of the stones he'd put a Coke machine next to a dinosaur or a car. He doesn't know about evolution. Put them in cow dung and leave them there for a while and sell them to tourists for a few sols, Peruvian money. It would take him 375,000 working hours. That would be 31,252 days. He would have to work 12 hours a day continuously for for 85 years to produce 11,000 stones. You're still breathing. So I had a Basilia stone, I had a Cabrera stone, I had this stone. I took it to independent laboratories for a blind test. I took it to the Mason Optical laboratories. I bluttered that when I insinuated the wrong syllable. I got my nose fixed. Now my tongue doesn't work. What is this clock for? This thing keeps ticking down. I'm afraid I'm going to get blown up. Is there live explosives up here? I took off my watch and discovered I had all the time in the world. You know what it means when I take off my watch? It just gives me more liberty with my arm. Down in the Philippines, when you preach down there, they call the watch the God on your wrist. I don't have a watch. Look, they're worried now. 5 minutes, I can do it. All right, Cabrera Museum, we took it over to the laboratory in Hillsboro. Blind test. It showed unmistakable evidence with Basilio's stone that when you use a hacksaw blade, it'll leave minute bits of metal that you can't see with your eye. When you break the surface, it also, because they're andesite stones, about 5 Mohs on the hardness scale, when you break the surface, it'll leave such a thing under a microscope, stereoscopic, high-powered microscope. They had a $100,000 microscope with video equipment. We looked at it, it would glint back at you, you'd see the quartz. Obvious fake. I mean, they didn't know that, but they wrote up the report. Fake. Cabrera stone had patina in it, had other evidence around it, and the black polish on the outside is not shoe polish for the skeptics, it's tar from Okahahe tar pits south. Just like the Noskins used to use tar as a bonding agent with other chemicals for their weapons. Neil Steedy, who did an analysis to try to disprove them, he took some stones to a laboratory and he found on the stones that it was tar. Also, that the little bits of wood inside that they found were dated up to 2,000 years ago. If you were making them recently, wouldn't you use modern wood? I didn't see any 2,000-year-old trees out there in the desert. They don't have them. All right, the third stone was this stone, heavy weatherization. We took it to a second, Palm Abrasive Laboratories, that does they have $250,000 worth of microscopic equipment. They do aircraft machine parts within 1/1,000,000th of an inch. Triangulation, laser point. We did the blind test again. It showed the Basilio stone was fake. It showed the Cabrera stone, not known to them ahead of time, that it was real based on all the evidence, and that the stone from this tomb was real. I'm doing this because always people say, oh, I know, I saw on the internet, it's fake. I'm showing you unmistakably that there's an ancient core of stones that are real. You see the weatherization here on this microscopic analysis. Ryan Drum, who was an American biologist in 1976, went down to Peru. He got some stones. He came back. He took the stones, went at 30 to 60 power. He said there's no evidence of rotary-powered machines. If you use a rotary-powered tool to carve these things, it'll leave chips. Also, the patina on it showed some degree of antiquity. The Rothschild Mining Company in Lima did studies in 1968. Based on their studies, they saw there was a patina on the weatherization. There was fissures and cracks in some of the stones, a degree of antiquity. Not 40, 100 years old. We can't date them exactly, but hundreds of years old, thousands of years old are the stones. Eric von Däniken did the same thing. He took stones to Sweden, did a laboratory analysis, and the laboratory analysis came back that there was a degree of antiquity to them. This stone shows the green area is some lichen growth. Here is heavy weatherization and patination of the stone. To sum up quickly, I looked through here. Here's the various dates of discoveries. 1571, we've talked about that, 1906, 1941, 1955, Carlos and Pablo Saldi, they were wealthy merchants who had a vineyard out in Okahahe. They had amassed a collection of stones, several hundreds of them. Part of the stones went to the Ica Regional Museum. Part of the stones went to Cabrera. Now, I've seen the Coca collection at the Ica Museum, engraved stones that all of the wise guys, the secular archaeologists and paleontologists say, yes, the Coca collection is real, but not Cabrera's. Wait a second. You're on the horns of a trilemma, because if you authenticate the Coca collection, you also authenticate the Cabrera collection, because of some of the very same stones from Pablo and Saldi are there in the same Cabrera collection, identical stones divided up. I've examined the Colca collection. They're the very kind of stones. Also, on one of the Colca stones is a pterosaur. You're awake. How did that get in there? 65 million years old, it's supposed to be extinct 65 million years. All right, Commander Elias at the Naval Museum, they collected stones. The National Aeronautical Museum in Lima has over 400 stones. The flooding of the Ica River in 1961, many, many witnesses. When the Ica River flooded, they found a cache of stones down there, a deposit of stones. Romero gave the first stone in 1966 to Cabrera, and it had a species of extinct fish over 130 million years ago. Javier Cabrera began collecting stones in 66. I'm going down the list real quick for you. The mining company in Lima, University of Bonn in Germany. Stones were sent away there in 1968. 1969, Franken sent back the report. I've seen copies of the report, and they mentioned that, yes, we have patina, they have oxidation, they have a buildup in the grooves, that there has to be some degree of antiquity. 1973, Joseph Blumrich, who was a NASA scientist who worked on the Jupiter 5 missile and the Saturn project, he also looked at them and examined them and said they had to be authentic. There's an aura of authenticity. Ryan Drum, we mentioned him, Eric von Daniken, Mason Optical Laboratory, Palm Abrasive Laboratory, laser optical USB digital microscopic study. We also did a DNA analysis on material from this stone that was sent to a laboratory just recently. We just got back the report from Dallas, Texas. And in that laboratory report, they cannot prove that we couldn't get the DNA out of it, but we know it is human because some of the hair fibers and some tissue off of the stone. Thank you very much.